Okay, good morning, everyone. Again, my name is Dan Johnson. I'm with the Wisconsin Motor Carriers Association. I want to welcome everybody to our continuing webinar with the association. We like to do these from time to time as a free service to our members. We're very pleased to welcome in our good partners and friends at PNC Bank. They have a very interesting and very timely topic today to talk about resiliency in an uncertain economic condition, and certainly we are in a very uncertain time, especially over the last couple of years, both from the pandemic, maybe for political reasons. This has been a difficult time for many of us at the state and national level. So we're watching things as they unfold in the economy. We noticed just yesterday the feds are increasing interest rates again to try and curb inflation, and as to whether that's going to help or not, we will soon find out, I suppose. We're right in the middle of an election season, so that always makes for interesting economic decisions by our state and national leaders. So we're going to get some assistance here from PNC Bank, from Heather Nill and Tyler Donahue. Heather Nill is the Vice President of Equipment Finance. She specializes in equipment finance solutions for businesses from 5 to 75 million in annual revenue. As an expert in capital optimization, Heather believes matching the appropriate lending facilities is vitally important. She works with businesses, helping them achieve their financial goals today and secure their future. She focuses on all aspects of the business and provides easy to implement tactics to ensure access to capital, optimization of cash flow while improving the bottom line. And Tyler Donahue. Tyler is a commercial banking relationship manager covering Wisconsin and Minnesota for PNC Bank, based out of Milwaukee, providing broad financial services to middle market customers. Tyler has 10 plus years of commercial finance experience with various financial institutions in the Midwest. He most recently focused on equipment finance with BMO Harris Bank and tax-exempt leasing with truck dealers across the country. And he is a graduate of University of Iowa. We won't hold that against him. Again, thank you, PNC Bank, for joining us today and helping us out with our webinar. I'm going to turn this presentation over to you. I just want to let everybody know that if you do have questions for our presenters here, there is a chat feature on your Zoom, and I'm just going to type it here. So if you do have a question during the presentation, you can certainly submit it here, and they will do their best to answer it. And as always, you can submit questions to us after this presentation, and we will make sure to try and get the answers for you. So Heather, Tyler, I'm going to turn it over to you. Thank you again, and good morning.
Thank you for that beautiful introduction. We're very happy to be here with you today virtually, and hope you all are doing well and having a beautiful September here in Wisconsin. As mentioned, the crazy world that we're living in, not only for the last 2 years, but what's ahead of us is the great unknown. And so our team at PNC is very committed to looking for ways to approach things a little differently and build strategy around how you can secure not only your equipment finance needs, but also all of the needs that you are facing and dealing with today, from employee management to supply chain and so forth. So because of the success that we have seen building out some of these strategies, we thought it was important to share them with you. The trucking industry and logistics space is the heartbeat of our country, and we cannot thank you enough for all that you do, oftentimes thanklessly. So from our hearts to yours, thank you for everything that you have done, especially over the last couple of years, getting us through the pandemic. With that said, the PowerPoint.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll jump off the screen here.
Yes. So, I guess we'll get to, sorry.
No, you're fine.
Yeah. And that's our presentation.
And that's our presentation.
So just to kind of give you a high level flyover of what we're going to be covering today. we've got a really beautiful economic update that I think will be very helpful. As mentioned, there was a big meeting yesterday, so already some of our information is dated because it seems that every day we're facing something new, a new challenge, something pops up in our markets. And so we're really having to block and tackle so many different things on a daily basis, but we're going to try to show you some resources that will be helpful going forward so you can stay on top of things easily. We're going to share some of the trucking industry updates that we see from a banking perspective, as well as share why PNC, not to be a commercial, of course, but we want to also share our credibility and why we are so passionate about this industry. And then, of course, we're going to get into the nuts and bolts of things with ways to really protect your cash flow and get into the strategies. Some of them are mentioned here. And then we'll get into, of course, how to attract and retain employees, since that, no matter the industry, seems to be a top of mind issue that we're also facing on top of everything else. We'll leave absolute room for Q&A. So please feel free to share questions along the way. We'll be checking those, but at the end, we'd love to open up conversation and dialogue, and then we'll close out our presentation. So with that said, PNC, I'm sharing the stage today with my business partner, Tyler Donahue. We're both out of Milwaukee. Trevor Weiss is also with us. Trevor uniquely covers organizational financial wellness, which we'll get into, but basically it's that employee aspect. So he's going to take us home with that. What we'd really like to highlight on this page is that the way PNC is built is more like a local bank as opposed to a super regional or national or even global institution, which we are. But the way that we approach every market, including Wisconsin, is we build out market leaders here, boots on the ground, that are helping our communities, helping our nonprofits, our schools, manufacturing. And so we've got local leadership here to assist our team to help you. So we've got, Chris Scholar, Chris Marshka, and Chris Herman, the three Chris's, uniquely enough. So, and then of course we have our other business partners as well. So with that said, I'm going to turn it over to Tyler to take us through some of the economic reporting that we're seeing today.
Sure. And so real quick, right off the bat, I wanted to share some resources historically and forward-looking that PNC provides free of charge. You don't have to be a customer. PNC.com/economic reports, all available online, all accessible. And so, like Heather mentioned, we have some recent news, late breaking from the Fed. We'll jump into that here in a minute, but you can go back for historical information. You can look at market surveys, expectation reports, all great resources that show the depth of PNC knowledge with some of our expert opinions. A few of these quick links work great, but again, the website there's a great resource as well. So backing up a lot of what we'll talk about today, and also a look into the future. So real quick, we noticed that the Fed voted unanimously to hike rates 75 basis points and raise their target Fed's fund rate between 3 and 3.25% just yesterday. This was kind of the general consensus of the market, was a 75 bips hike. But we do note that equities dropped on the announcement on Tuesday or on Wednesday. And then certainly we're seeing the markets continue to drop as they digest some of the economic reports today as well. I think a lot of it has to do with the downward economic revisions for GDP, noting that things are looking a little rocky, and the Fed certainly remains focused on curbing inflation. The story here, the goal is to reduce inflation back to the 2% level. That's where Jerome Powell and the team will want to get things. How quickly they can get there is the question. A lot of forecasts don't contemplate that occurring until 2025, meaning we still have some run rate there. A lot of folks talking about another 75 basis points hike before the end of the year, maybe 100 basis points. So still a ways to go in terms of the Fed's action items. As PNC, as a bank, our forecast and what we communicate to the market for what we're seeing is that there's definitely a baseline forecast for weaker growth, but we do not foresee a recession over the next couple of years. 2023, 2024 see elevated signs of recession, but the percentage points that we plot around it around 45% probability of recession. That's from top of house with PNC. We could argue about, what indicators drive us there, but that's the messaging that we're still seeing today. Just got some information here historically on the 10-year swap rate. I'm not going to get too far into the weeds here, as I'm not an economist, but a lot of the expectations are for flattening over the next year and even decreasing into 2023. So something to keep an eye on there. We'll jump back to this information here in just a little bit, but definitely some good data points to take a look at when you have some time. I'm going to jump into a little bit of the industry overview for what we see and what we talk about with clients, kind of more at a macro level, and then Heather's going to dive in on more the micro level too. But we know that like Heather mentioned, the trucking industry is a big driver of the U.S. economy and often a bellwether of what's to come. What you guys see in deliveries and freight loads and expectations that you hear from your customers often are great indicators to what's to come. Key determinants of the industry, as you know, are driven by retail consumers, their confidence, along with larger trade volumes. While everyone's focused on that buzzword recession and know what that means, we all know that for different carriers, different markets, different places that you play in the space, it can mean different things and how you'll perform. And again, just want to reiterate that PNC is equipped to deal with companies of all size, all aspects of the industry, large and small. We'll get into some of our offerings that can help on the equipment finance side there a little bit later. But despite the economic headwinds, we still see the industry poised for growth. Nice tailwinds to keep the industry moving. Margins will remain a challenge, as we know. Input costs, taking delivery of vehicles, and certainly rising wages will remain challenges on the margin side. Heather?
So, as you can imagine, we have the, I guess, great benefit of being able to talk to a lot of different trucking companies, not only here in Wisconsin. I also cover Missouri, and our bank is coast to coast. So I thought that it would be helpful to hear and share what we hear as bankers, and maybe you can relate to some of these statements. So we're hearing trucking companies say that they're not as prepared for business transitions, obvious supply chain issues, the fuel issue of surcharging, how to handle that and manage that, increase in raw material prices, manufacturers increasing inventory levels, equipment shortages, a delay in receiving tractors and trailers. Was at an all-time high. I think we're still feeling that. The equipment price increases and fluctuation there. So it's unpredictable right now. And then keeping older equipment longer versus replacing. So managing the servicing of those. And then here it is again, the employee attraction and retention, the driver shortages causing backlogs. And then how do we increase retention measures, which we'll speak to later. And a lot of your employees continue to live paycheck to paycheck. So we want to be sure to come to the table with some solutions for that. So listen up for those later on. Exposure to decreasing consumer demand in the retail sector as we continue on. Manual processes for check writing versus automation to help you become more efficient is really what we are hearing, as well as how do we protect you better against fraud exposure. So those are some of the things that we hear regularly. So if some of you can relate to that, we'll definitely hammer in on some of those in a little bit. So a little bit more on PNC Bank overall. We are a coast-to-coast bank and global bank, again, with that Main Street approach. We really pride ourselves on bringing you local delivery, as well as specializing in industry. But we offer broad scopes of advisory tools, not only for your business, but also for your personal and wealth management, future planning, 401k. I mean, everything you can think of across the board, we handle and manage. If any of you do international, we have the capability for international banking, and we invest heavily in technology. So we know that for you to be efficient, technology has to be top of mind for our bank. And so it is very much so. We are based out of Pittsburgh, so just some little factoids about PNC overall. But really, the most important thing is that no matter where you go, coast to coast, we will be there for you. I had mentioned some of the services that we cover. I mean, just, circle back to this as if you need to in the future. I won't go into it, but we handle pretty much everything for your business and personally we can do. And again, as Tyler mentioned earlier, any size business, any revenue size, let Tyler and I be your quarterback, and we'll be sure to pair you up with the right person here in Wisconsin if it isn't us for some reason. So information about equipment finance in general. What we love to say is that we believe in equipment finance first. So what that means is we know that you likely have an existing relationship with a bank. It might be a local one, might be a national one, but what I'm here to tell you today is that we will do equipment finance for you. The transaction word is not one we like to use in banking, but we will do it as a transaction just to give you a chance to get to know us, take advantage of our pricing, our structure, our expertise in the CapEx realm, and then you can maintain your relationship if that's important to you at your existing bank. We are the third largest bank-owned equipment finance company in the US, second to B of A and Wells Fargo. So again, I think our commitment to service will help us rise to the top there. As you can see in the bottom right, our asset expertise, the #1 market we serve in equipment finance is transportation. So as that demonstrates alone is that we understand your business, you're talking to people that you don't need to explain things to, and we're going to bring you ideas and solutions and things to think about as part of a strategy discussion, not just taking orders and we want to bring you new ideas to maybe add to your quiver of tools. We'll just skip over this one too. I kind of went through that. Okay. So building business resiliency, the reason we are here today, we mentioned some of the things we hear in the trucking space, but this is what we hear no matter the industry right now is inflation and cash flow is top of mind. Interest rates, cost of goods, services, supplies, raw materials, gas, food, everything is up right now. You've got employment openings that we can't fill. Also, people seem to be losing employees the second they come in. They may not even make it a day, we hear. So how do we attract and retain, a healthy employment pool? Supply chain issues continue to be unpredictable. They're stabilizing a little bit, we hear, but still unpredictable. And of course, we don't know what the future holds. And even as Tyler mentioned, I think some of our economists were just guessing at this point because we've never been here before. So we're all facing this together. It was really important to us, not only with the pandemic, but always we think strategy solutions, but with the pandemic and post-pandemic, strategy now more than ever is key. Because when we're all in a low interest rate environment and money is cheap, it's easy to say yes. But when interest rates continue to fluctuate like they are, and we don't know about supply chain and when the trucks are going to be coming in and the trailers are coming in and what's happening, we need to think differently now. And so that's what we hope to be bringing you today, are ways to think differently. Now more than ever too, it's important that you have access to capital. A lot of times we hear that companies will pay cash for their equipment, and that might be great when there's, when we have that predictability in your industry. Right now, I would say that it might be smart to rethink that strategy just for now to get us through that and start to use your cash flow and expand on your working capital by working capital lines of credit as well as equipment finance lines of credit. We'll get into those differences. Using things like purchase cards, also excellent. So then we want to talk about securing your future equipment. So establishing an equipment line of credit gives you that purchasing power that's needed today to say yes to those contracts and get the equipment locked in. There's so many beautiful aspects to having an equipment line of credit. You get 12 months to shop for your equipment. You can put multiple things on that line of credit. So sometimes other banks will make you peel off each piece of equipment separately. Here at PNC, we give you the ability to have one line of credit, which is interest only for 12 months. Then at the end of 12 months, if you've got multiple pieces of equipment, we can have you end with one term loan. So from an accounting standpoint, that can make you much more lean and efficient. If it's important to you to have those separate loans, we have what's called hybrid. So we can separate each piece of equipment if that's important to you. We can also do some pieces of equipment as a term loan and others as leases. So in terms of flexibility and customization, that is what we really specialize in. So those are the things that we really talk about. One aspect that became very, very important when rates were really climbing, we are one of the few banks, and I don't even know what banks are out there that offer this, but just know that at PNC, we offered what's called a forward rate lock option. This gives you the ability to lock your interest rate today, knowing that rates might be climbing over the next 12 months as you're shopping for your equipment with that equipment line. You know what your rate is today, and then at the end of your equipment line time, when it's time to turn that equipment line into a term loan, we know exactly what your interest rate will be on that final term loan. So that becomes very, very important. And we are watching every single day what rates are doing. And we'll work with you to make sure that we don't put you into a forward rate lock unless it makes sense. So for a while, it made absolute sense. Those people that got in and signed a forward rate lock agreement are, wiping their foreheads, thank God. But then there became a time when the Fed raised the Fed rate, but then rates dropped. So we're still keeping our fingers on the pulse in terms of, does it make sense to have a forward rate lock agreement or not? But the thing that's important to know is that if and when it does become important, you're working with a bank that does have that capability, and we can pull that out if we need it. So that is something that's really, really important in a raising rate environment like we are in right now. So as mentioned, we too like to be efficient. So not only are we looking for efficiencies for you, but as a bank, it's really important to us that we are very efficient as well. So we've got a very easy documentation process. We want to make your life easier. We talked about the equipment only philosophy, that we're willing to work with you on that, CapEx only if that's important to you. You can finance 100% of the equipment costs, including up to 20% of soft costs. So if you have some equipment that requires installation, that is capable, that's available to you. It allows you to test drive us as a partner for you without having to change your entire banking relationship. And we get to know what your asset pool is, and we can advise you. As again, we really like to know and get to know you. So doing this as a transaction gives us both the ability to get to know one another. And as mentioned, that long-term rate lock with the conversion, that lock and shop philosophy is always available to you. For larger companies that might be out there listening, we do have what's called a swap, and that is for bigger credit needs. And again, that's a strategy that we offer, which can make a lot of fiscal sense in the right company and mindset. So know that we've got options for you to protect your capital.
Absolutely.
So go ahead.
And on that front, yeah, we would bring in an expert in financial derivatives products to help you review your mix of floating and fixed rate debt, understand your risk tolerance, your goals and ambitions, and help consult with you that way for sure. I think the only other thing I would hit on here, Heather, is kind of sometimes the difference between a working capital line of credit and an equipment line of credit. We really like to see customers dedicating their longer lived assets onto the equipment line of credit that will term out into fixed rate notes or leases, and kind of preserving that working capital line of credit for shorter term purchases that are more meant to be paid off in a more timely fashion. We consult with companies and right sizing both of those lines, making sure they've got the financial flexibility that they need. It's a big part of our process here, consulting with companies. So back to a little accounting 101 for those that slept through it. back in the day. Kind of lease versus loan. Heather and I spend a lot of our time focusing on loans for customers, maybe a little more straightforward, a little more conventional, but did want to highlight a few of the key differences between leases and loans, and certainly things that we help customers evaluate and are always helpful to consult on as well. But the key difference in comparing the lease versus the loan comes down to the ownership and the transfer of tax benefits. Under a traditional or conventional loan, the borrower retains ownership and the depreciation benefits associated with it. And under a lease, the ownership of equipment transfers to the lessor and all the tax benefits as well. And the trade-off there is often a lower rent or smaller implicit tax rate, interest rate, I should say. So we're always helpful to compare and strategize, and especially when it comes to fleet equipment, helpful to take a look and say, hey, here's what a loan payment would look like. Well, here's what a lease payment looks like under the same term. Often there can be large differences, and it's important to quantify what those can mean to a company. And if you haven't run kind of a lease versus loan versus cash purchase analysis before, Heather and I are always happy to run through our model and help you evaluate answers there too. Kind of the why leasing makes sense. It's a great option, as Heather mentioned, the 100% financing as a condition of IRS rules. That helps finance the acquisition, reduce monthly rents and equipment payments. And then at the end, you still have an option to purchase or own the equipment if that's the intention later at the end of the lease or at expiration. PNC is a huge equipment lessor, like Heather mentioned, one of the largest in the company. We've got industry standard documents that are straightforward and clearly state the conditions for the lease. It's certainly a cash preservation strategy worth evaluating, even if you've historically purchased with cash or used equipment notes. Going into some of the different lease types, we're not going to get too far in the weeds here. The benefits here are really helpful to help understand. Certainly in this space, we see a lot of the track leases when it comes to titled over-the-road trucks and tractors. Those might be pretty familiar with, but certainly it's important to note here that, especially when it comes to other equipment that transportation and logistic companies might be acquiring, be it office equipment, furniture, fixtures, warehouse equipment, forklifts, even ERP and technology, PNC is often able to look at under a lease structure as well as a loan structure. So just always, I think the goal here is, hey, bring in an equipment finance partner early and often as you're evaluating your CapEx plans, and we can help compare different products, different benefits as well. The parties of a lease transaction, don't need to spend too much time there. It's the lessor, lessee, and Uncle Sam in the middle there as always. So Heather, kind of bottom line impacts. We can both kind of hit on this a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, we just wanted to share some good questions for you that you can ask yourself with regards to the different aspects of your financial health. So from a tax standpoint, are you in an alternative minimum tax position? Do you have net operating loss carry forwards? Do you need to take depreciation deductions and capitalize on bonus depreciation? That last one is huge, especially for those of you who like to pay cash. I love it. One of my favorite things is when the business owners that we work with bring in their accountant into the conversation so that we can talk about the various structures, and we work together to make sure that we're working with your tax strategy and taking advantage of everything that we can to save you money. So we are not accountants as much as smart as we sound, right? We do need that expertise, that CPA, to come in and help us with those conversations with you. So I would really encourage you to invite your accountant into the conversation with us. Cash flow, do you require 100% financing? Do you want to conserve your cash? What needs do you have? Are you trying to minimize your monthly payments? If so, leasing might be a great option for you. Do you have seasonality in your business with cash? So those are things that we're going to be honing in on. From an equipment standpoint, what do you plan to acquire and when? I know the when might be a question mark, but it's still good to have a runway so that we can help you strategize and plan from an interest rate perspective and timing perspective. Are you concerned with obsolescence? How long is the anticipated life cycle for your equipment? Do you plan to eventually own your equipment? How will the efficiency of your equipment help your business? We in equipment finance like to think of your equipment as almost like an employee. So how will it work for you, and how do we master the timing? So it's much more than just what's your term, what's your rate. We really want to dig in and get our hands dirty with you. From a balance sheet perspective, are there anticipated events that will require you to preserve your cash and borrowing availability? So things like expansion, mergers and acquisitions. Do you want to purchase any real estate for your company? So there's a lot of things that we want to kind of get behind to make sure that you've got that cash available for you to do other projects for your business. Are there any new accounting rules that would change the aspects of your balance sheet? And the third one, we typically find we just want to make sure that you as business owners, and if there's any controllers or CFOs out there, just understanding what your bank's financial reporting requirements are. We, and most banks, all banks like to follow what's called GAAP accounting. So having the proper reporting to the banks are very, very important to help us help you much more efficiently, and also understand any potential covenants or cash flow requirements or debt service requirements. That just empowers you to make decisions, and we get to be more proactive versus reactive because it's harder to go backwards in this business. So with that said, we are at the end of our very exciting financial aspect of our presentation to help you with trucking and business resiliency. Wanted to open it up for any questions that might come forward. Otherwise, we're going to bring it home with the last part, which is helping your employees and helping you attract and retain employees. I use the word healthy in this presentation, and the reason I did that is because of the fact that while we think of health as the physical health of our body, in this sense, I meant it as the financial health. What we have found in our studies, and Trevor's going to get into this, I'm sure, is in all the years that we work with our company's employees, is the number one thing that brings stress into their life now more than ever is not having financial wherewithal, empowerment, and knowing that they're safe and secure for their families financially. So we built this program specifically to help you relieve stress in your employees, make them financially healthy so that they can be more productive for you. And this also becomes a very powerful thing for you to market to future employees. So with that said, I'm going to turn it over to Trevor so that he can share all of the wonderful things that we can help you with.
All right, thank you so much, Heather and Tyler. Really happy to be here this afternoon and talk to you guys about really, we kind of alluded to it, right? We have a lot of trucks and a lot of equipment. All of that is very important, but really, our greatest assets at our companies is our employees, right? Our human capital. And in the last several years, especially with, the additional burden and stress of COVID, right? What are our companies doing, and what other additional things can they put in place to ensure that they're attracting and retaining the best talent. So I'm not going to read all of these to you, but just a couple of statistics on the screen here in front of you. Typically what we've seen through the industry is that, employees are spending at least 3 hours a week at work worrying about financial issues, financial stress. A lot of that is due to, lack of advocacy and lack of education. And really that's where myself and my group in organizational financial wellness comes in. So there are several solutions that we have available in organizational financial wellness. I will highlight that all of these are available completely independent and separately from any existing banking relationships. So, Heather mentioned about some of those transactional type of deals that can happen outside of, where you're banking currently now, very similar to the solutions available for your employees. We understand that you might have an existing relationship somewhere else, but by us taking care of your employees, being an advocate for them, We're really here to build goodwill and see, what other ways can PNC help outside of your human capital. Our primary program that all of this is really centered around is called our workplace banking program. So we really bring the bank to your employees, and it's really centered around that financial education aspect. So we have close to 20 different financial education seminars covering a wide array of topics, all the way from, I've had some issues at other banks in the past. How do I get set up and choose the right institution? All the way to I'm saving to buy a house, all the way to I'm preparing to retire and will I have enough money to live the lifestyle that I want. So all of these seminars are completely complimentary, no cost, no contract for this amazing program. It does provide boots on the ground employees, including me and my team, right, to be available in case any employees have, individual concerns that they want to go through. They'll always have a point of contact and someone to reach out to. I think about myself, even for things as simple as like, my hair and getting a haircut, and I don't want to search all over the place. I want to have my guy. I want to know who I'm going to go to. And with money and finances being, really one of the most important issues out there, why shouldn't that be the same type of way to know who you're going to, and to have somebody to walk alongside you and be able to provide that type of guidance. It also allows access to all of your employees to have, some enhanced product and services here at PNC that are not available to the general public. We make some of the requirements in terms of waiving monthly fees and increasing refunds a little bit easier. And again, all of this is available, no cost, no contract to the company. It says health savings account. I'll call it consumer-driven healthcare, but we also have solutions available, including HSAs. We have added flex spend accounts as well as dependent care, HRAs. So several different and frankly, multi-account capabilities in case maybe you're offering more than one of these options for your employees, something that we can streamline and make really easy in terms of opening the new accounts for your employees really seamless. In terms of online financial education, we have a really great free program here called the Financial Wellness Achievement Center. It's an online employee portal. It's gamified with points for your employees. Someone signs up, creates a new username for themselves. They'll answer a roughly 8-question initial survey that really puts them on a path of, what are my upcoming financial concerns or goals, and what are my stress points now. And it creates and caters customizable content for that individual employee based on what their needs are at this time. And it's really nice and fun too. They sign up, they get points. They read an article, they get points. All of this is kind of quick, more abbreviated information where it's like 3 to 5 minute videos. Everybody learns differently. Maybe the 45-minute financial education seminars really isn't the best way to learn for everyone. This is a way for people and your employees to learn on their own time, at their own schedule, with short kind of catered content that's going to be unique to them. Nice for all of the employers too. It doesn't tell you John Smith is concerned about, how I'm going to pay my bills. It doesn't have, that kind of drill down information, but it will tell you very generally, right? Like how many of your employees are using this program and maybe what area, there's largest concerns around. So if there are, 50% of the employees are concerned about, living paycheck to paycheck, that kind of gives you some additional highlight around, how can we kind of complement this type of need and maybe accentuate with additional financial education seminars. We do have PNC fiduciary investment advisory and management services for any 401k needs. I won't spend a lot of time on this, but I will say that we do offer free fee benchmarking reviews. So if it's been a while, a year plus, since you've kind of compared apples to apples and see what the cost looks like, we have seen that there are a lot of different ways that we can assist our different business owners with making sure that not only is there no liability in terms of the type of funds that they're offering, but to make sure that they're in line and paying the right types of fees. We are aware that in your industry, there are, some employees that might be 1099 contractor employees. A large concern that we've seen from that group is typically around saving for and paying for quarterly tax payments to Uncle Sam. So we have a nice, completely free online banking solution for your 1099s. They open it online. They have a attached, associated PNC debit card. It's Visa. It doesn't make the quarterly tax payment for them, but it does all of the budgeting and savings in terms of, once they set up direct deposit, how much they need to save out of every paycheck to make sure they're able to make that payment at the end of the quarter, which alleviates a lot of that stress and burden. Moving along here, and we're about ready to wrap up. I just wanted to kind of dive a little bit deeper and show you some highlighted information around our complimentary workplace banking program and just some of the benefits available to both you as the employer and your individual employees. So we talked about some of these already. I will say that typically, good ways for us to engage and work alongside your employees. Things like new hire orientations, if you have like employee appreciation events or maybe quarterly safety training. Those are good ways for us to kind of come alongside you and provide some additional goodwill and engagement. We like to keep things fun too. We'll have plenty of PNC giveaways. We'll buy pizza and subs, things like that. And we do have the capability to do things either virtually or in person, depending on what works best for you and your management team. That's about all I had on my end. Were there any other follow-up questions, concerns from the group around organizational financial wellness?
I have one actually.
Sure.
One thing that I think I think is so amazing about your program is how many languages can you deliver these?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I don't have an exact number,
right.
But whatever the language concern is, we'd have somebody on the team to be able to facilitate. For my specific team, I have a partner, Viri Canova, who's bilingual. If you have employees with Spanish-speaking needs, we'll have a local person here with boots on the ground to be able to assist. If you happen to have a large group of employees that speak Polish, we'd find the right person and bring them in. Very good question, Heather.
Thanks. Yeah. So we're very accommodating, but more so just to help you. Any other questions that might be coming to mind?
And if not, our contact information is included at the top of the slide. Feel free to reach out, phone or email. We'll make the slides available for distribution to the audience immediately following the presentation. But just to reiterate, PNC is here to help. We're here to consult. This is what Heather and I do daily, and Trevor and his team, and definitely looking to further engage with the association.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks. I'll pass it back to Dan in case he has any closing remarks.
Yeah, thank you, Tyler and Heather and Ryan and everybody with PNC. We really do, again, appreciate this. As a service to our association members, we know that, the economy is always uncertain and sometimes unstable, but sometimes there are things that happen, like we saw a couple of years ago with the pandemic, that nobody would ever, plan for. And I think when you talked about planning, if we learned anything from the pandemic, is how important planning should be with any company. Obviously the PPP loans that came through a couple of years ago, that was probably a saving grace for many companies. But if we do find ourselves in another situation like this, I don't know if the American taxpayer will have the stomach for something like that again. So planning is going to be so very important going forward, and hopefully our business leaders have learned a lot over the last couple of years as they try to navigate all of this. So we do appreciate your assistance with this today. As they mentioned, we can make their slides available to anybody who would like them. Again, this is a webinar that is being recorded, so we can also have the video available to anybody who would like that. So I'm just going to make a quick check here. Not seeing any questions from anybody. I think we're going to wrap up today. And again, thank PNC and for everybody for joining us today. And as always, if you have any questions about anything regarding the trucking industry or the association, please feel free to give us a call here at the Wisconsin Motor Carriers Association office, and we'll try to help you or point you in the right direction, like our friends here from PNC. So enjoy the first day of fall, everybody. Enjoy your weekend. Looks like we have a good stretch of weather coming up, so it should be a lovely Wisconsin fall, at least for starters. We'll see how we go into October, November. Don't forget, the Wisconsin Motor Carriers Association Convention and Trade Show is next Wednesday and Thursday at Century World in lovely Stevens Point, Wisconsin. We hope to see you all there, and it should be a great time. So until then, thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful weekend and take care.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Dan. Thank you.